So the research is divided into two types. So it's one on the benefits of internal migration and then international migration. So there are some gains to internal migration, but then we also see the gains to international migration is actually even larger, maybe an order of magnitude larger. So a recent experiment that we analyzed, which was an experiment done by the government of Bangladesh, where there were some visas made available by the government of Malaysia, and the government of Bangladesh, when they advertised that opportunity, over 1.4 million people applied. So then they had to allocate those visas by lottery. So then we compare the lottery winners to others who participated in the lottery but were unlucky and did not win. And you see that people who won the lottery compared to people who didn't, their income triples, the migrants' income. And that leads to about a doubling of their household income. And that leads to, better consumption, better asset position, lower indebtedness, but also other socio-economic benefits, such as since a male migrant is now traveling to do farm work in Malaysia, you see that the female members of the household have more decision-making power. So this is all in line with many other types of evidence coming from other countries, where we see that in these large migration corridors, which are like South Asians traveling to richer countries in Asia, or Filipinos, Southeast Asians traveling to richer countries in Asia, the returns tend to be very, very large. So in the evidence I just mentioned about Malaysia, what was striking about it is, and distinctive about it, is that it was a government-to-government program. So part of the problem of getting people to migrate is, first of all, in the destination countries, often visas are not easily available, right? And the other part of the problem is that sometimes you have these intermediaries, private sector intermediaries, who charge a lot to the migrants and sometimes also take advantage of them. Migrants are not very well versed or very well informed about employment conditions in the destinations, and so they can be taken advantage of, right? So one thing we see in this paper is that when the government directly contracts with another government in this program that's referred to as G2G, government-to-government programs, you can actually lower the cost of intermediation. So to travel to Malaysia, often private sector intermediaries were charging about $4,000 to $5,000 to the migrants, but the government was able to do this only for $450, right? And so governments, I think, have a role to play. They should be involved, but it's a complicated situation, and it's complicated because both the destination country has to be willing to open up its doors to new migrants, and the sending country have to be prepared to take advantage of those opportunities. So I think there are new opportunities opening up, partly because you have some of these richer countries in Asia, like Japan, South Korea, where fertility rates have fallen. And with falling fertility, the population has aged, right? The elderly share of the population has risen, and so they need young workers. So I think they've become newly open. These are countries that traditionally have been very closed to migration, but now they understand the labor needs that they have for young workers, so they've become newly open. And so this is a good opportunity for countries like Philippines, Indonesia, Bangladesh, India to send more migrants to fill those needs. And so I've been working with the government of Bangladesh to open up one new migration pathway from Bangladesh to Japan. And in working on this project, what I learned is that one big friction is that the Japanese government requires new migrants to come in with knowledge of Japanese language, of Japanese culture, of workplace expectations in Japanese labor markets, right? Which are all very unique set of skills to Japan, right? And understandably, migrants, without any promise of a visa up front, they are hesitant to make those investments, right? And so now you have a problem where the migrants don't want to pay for the cost of Japanese language training, right? Partly because it's a very unique and specific skill. Like if you learn Japanese and then you don't get a visa, it's not like French or English. It's not easy for you to sort of transfer that skill to another setting. And so another way that we can solve that problem is that now there are intermediaries from Japan, like Japanese companies, who provide the training to migrants from Philippines. They could do it in Bangladesh, right? And that training will be provided free of cost to the potential migrant, because the Japanese employers who would hire those migrants, they're the ones who cover the cost, right? So basically, this intermediary takes the risk of making the upfront investment in the potential migrant, right? They have an eligibility criteria, they choose people carefully, they train them for a few months, then they place them in with Japanese employers, and upon successful placement, they get paid, right? And this seems to be a pretty good business opportunity for these intermediaries. So they've been running these businesses in countries like Philippines, Myanmar, and they're successfully placed, several thousand migrants already, right? So the new idea is to try to encourage them to expand their business operations into new countries like Bangladesh, right? So this requires us to form a coalition between the Japanese employers, the intermediary, plus the Bangladesh government, right? And the relevant ministry in Bangladesh, the Ministry of Expatriate Welfare, to provide the support and welcoming set of conditions for Japanese employers and intermediaries to come in.